This is NTV Tonight, the headlines.
Tonight, a manhunt is on for gunmen who shot 5 and abducted an Italian woman in Kilifi.
She's still missing.
The witness could become genuinely apprehensive about giving evidence against a person who had access to gun.
Joseph Joey Irungu wants Justice James Wakiaga to disqualify himself from the Monica Kimani murder case for language he terms as uncouth. Also tonight,
sisi wanawake, Mungu we tusaidie.
Tunes of the push for the gender bill.
What will be more expensive is the referendum that you want to remove the women.
And may I also say we are tired of being categorized into rural, urban women, classic women, slay queens.
Plus, proposed rules to tame borders expected in 60 days as Mishuki rules hit thousands of PSVs.
So those of you who operate buses, we will ground them, lock them up in police stations, and do whatever we can to ensure that you don't kill our people.
NTV Tonight with Burrows.
Remember, you can also watch this bulletin live on ntv.co.ke/live and also on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter using the handle NTV Kenya. Our sign language interpreter tonight is David Agondoa. An Italian woman was kidnapped by gunmen during an attack that occurred at Chakama Trading Center in Magarini constituency Tuesday evening. A gang of armed men stormed the shopping center and started shooting indiscriminately before abducting the 23-year-old Italian lady identified as Silvia Romano. A volunteer with Africa Milele Onlas, a non-governmental organization operating in the area. The gunmen injured 5 people who were still nursing serious gunshot wounds at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital, with one of them reportedly in critical condition. NTV's Kevin Mutai has more details from Kilifi County.
Tension is high in Chakama Trading Center in Kilifi County following an attack by an unknown gunman Tuesday evening at around 7:30 p.m. The locals say the gunmen armed with AK-47 rifles stormed the shopping center and immediately started shooting randomly. They claim that one of the gunmen ordered some of the residents who had assembled in front of this shop to lie down, but some decided to scamper for their safety, and that's when the attackers executed their operation.
Walipokutukuta hapo, mimi niko nje, wao mzungu uko ndani, wakauliza huyu mgeni uko wapi? Mgeni uko wapi? Residents say the attackers' purpose appeared to be to abduct the Italian woman Silvia Romano, who works as a volunteer with Africa Milele Onlas. Romano had rented this apartment where she was staying with her 2 colleagues, but she was alone with the locals at the time she was abducted. Residents say the gunmen demanded money from the lady before fleeing with her and disappeared into the dead of night.
Walikuwa wamevaa nguo nyeusi. Mimi niliona walikuwa kama wamejaa barabara. Sasa mimi ule mzungu akaniona akaniita kwa jina, akaniita Kimandi. Oh wajun, kamwambia fine. Akaniambia tomorrow is come here home. Mimi nikamwambia okay. Wakati naongea naye wajamaa wakaja.
She's still missing because where she used to operate is just that building just behind me here. And in fact, we are now, those officers who came were the first responders at the scene. Now we have just follow up now to get finer details.
Sisi shida ambayo tumeiona hapa ni kwamba kwanza kabisa imechukua muda sana polisi kufika, na hasa inaonekana kwamba hata walipopata zile tetesi ya kwamba wale waliofanya kitengo hiki wako karibu, wamechukua muda kuweza kuchukua hatua hiyo.
5 people were injured and are currently nursing serious injuries at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital. Doctors say that one of the victims, Samini Garama, is in critical condition after he was shot in the neck. 10-year-old Mohamed Kalume, a standard 5 pupil, sustained a gunshot in his left eye but is in stable condition. His mother says that he had sent her son to the shop to buy foodstuff for dinner.
Nasikia uchungu sana mimi. Nasikitika tangu usiku basi nalia mpaka sasa. Nalia. Sijui mtoto wangu atakuwa vipi.
Police surveillance both in the air and on land with a contingent of armed officers from various security agencies including the Kenya Defence Forces, Kenya Wildlife Service and the Administration Police are in a joint operation to flush out the attackers. Police are also patrolling Chakama and its environs to calm the tension after some of the residents attacked and injured 3 people in what is said to be retaliatory attacks.
Inawezekana kuongezwe kituo kingine cha polisi maeneo haya karibu hapa kwa sababu sofa sahihi tuna kituo chetu cha polisi kilicho karibu na sisi kiko Langobaya na ni mwendo wa kama 25 kilometers.
Ni lazima serikali ya Italy itagutuka. Ndiposa mimi naweka mwito wa serikali yetu kuu ifanye mbinu zozote yule dada aweze kupatikana na aweze kupatikana akiwa hai.
Security personnel in the region are coordinating in the search and rescue mission of the Italian lady who was abducted by the gunmen and intensifying the manhunt on the suspects who fled across River Sebaki into the vast forest in Galana Kulalu. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Kilifi County.
The government has formally gazetted the task force on motorcycle transport reforms that will create regulations and guidelines to be followed by border operators in a bid to streamline the sector. The launch of the task force was graced by Cabinet Secretaries Fred Matiang'i Interior and his transport counterpart James Macharia. Hundreds of miles away, border operators in Kabarnet, Baringo County protested what they term as police harassment. NTV Seth Olale with the latest update on the new transport regulations in the country.
The 12-man task force gazetted by Cabinet Secretaries Fred Matiang'i and James Macharia is chaired by Julius Mathenge, who has 60 days to formulate and enforce rules that will govern border operators in the country. Other members of the task force include David Tiraina, who is the deputy chairperson, Martin Eshiwani, Njeri Waithaka, Nick Korir, Lucy Karume, Lydia Mambo, Michael Kimani, Kevin Mubadi, Kennedy Odhiambo Okongo, who is a representative from the Council of Governors, Thomas Ogutu and Thomas Sharia, who are the joint secretaries of the task force.
It's time that we lived like serious people, because we messed ourselves by all this, and we keep engaging in public relations. You know, let us say things that are politically correct, or we will not annoy these people. Some of the reasons why we are suffering the way we are suffering is because occasionally and sometimes we have allowed politics to rule our lives.
If you follow the law, there will be no issue with you. There will be no issue with NTSA, there will be no issue with the police service. But follow the law. And the law requires you to have a vehicle which is roadworthy. It requires you to have a vehicle which is properly insured.
The task force has been mandated to, among others, examine existing policy, institutional, legislative and administrative systems governing the public service motorcycle subsector, compile comprehensive data regarding the safety, reliability, cost and other matters of interest to consumers of public service motorcycle subsector services, recommend comprehensive reforms for the protection of consumers of public service motorcycle services, and develop a prioritized implementation matrix clearly stating the immediate, medium and long-term reforms governing consumers of public service motorcycle subsector.
And there is work we are doing in the justice sector right now about cleaning up police stations, what we are going to do with motor vehicles that we have arrested and so on. And I told the IG the other day, honestly speaking, this is work I would like to undertake even if I don't go for a Christmas break. Vehicles we have arrested, like this one's carrying contraband goods and so on, we are going to court, we apply for administrative forfeiture, we take them. We need these vehicles. Some of them we can share with county governments to use them to...
There are so far 40,000 cases of traffic offenders since the government revived the Michuki rules 11 days ago. As the task force on motorcycle transport reforms was being launched in Nairobi, a group of border operators in Kabarnet, Baringo County, protested against an operation being conducted by local law enforcers. The operators momentarily paralyzed transport by barricading roads and engaging the police in running battles. As the task force formally starts executing its mandate, border operators have been warned against flouting the existing laws, with the government insisting that it will not relent in its crackdown in order to ensure there is sanity in this particular sector. Seth Olale, NTV, the KICC, Nairobi.
The chief suspect in the Monica Kimani murder case, Joey Kuria Irungu, has applied for the presiding judge, Justice James Wakiaga, to recuse or disqualify himself from hearing the case based on what the applicant terms as an unfair judgment of his character. Joey has also filed a fresh application for bail, which he believes cannot be heard by the same judge he says used derogatory language to deny him bail without any tangible evidence.
And the prosecution submission that is a man in need of close supervision, and that supervision can only be achieved under protective custody.
The statement by Justice James Wakiaga formed a base in which chief suspect Joseph Irungu was denied release on bail or bond, but it was in this statement that asked Irungu, who now seeks a fresh application, to be released on bond, but this time he wishes the honorable judge not to hear the matter. In an application filed under a certificate of urgency, Irungu seeks to have the trial judge recuse himself, stating that it is only fair and prudent that his application be heard on priority basis so as not to interfere with the hearing dates of the case, slotted to be heard from the 18th of June 2019. Irungu, in a notice of motion before the same court, argues that Justice Wakiaga exhibited bias in his bail and bond ruling, delivered on the 30th of October.
Is a male version of Slay Queen, which for lack of better terminology, I'll call a woman eater.
In this description of Irungu's character that the applicant states injured the same, Irungu alias Joey, in a supporting affidavit, states that he is convinced that the honorable judge, in denying him bail or bond, delved and addressed the bond application not on the merits of facts, evidence placed before him, but on account of external influence and consideration of false and misleading information in the main and social media platforms, against the backdrop of legal and constitutional considerations of judicial independence, which is a guarantee of fair trial. The applicant further argues that in his ruling, the honorable judge has already adjudged him and painted a picture of a criminal and found him guilty as charged.
The witness could become genuinely apprehensive about giving evidence against a...
In seeking a fresh attempt to apply for bail, which he says is assured for all suspects in the Constitution, Joey notes that his wish to have the matter placed before a different judge is based on the judge using the most uncouth, derogatory and injudicious language against him. It was unreasonable for the judge to make such comments on his character without any tangible or cogent evidence. Irungu has officially placed a complaint on the judge's actions before the Judicial Service Commission. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Women MPs are now urging political party leaders to whip their National Assembly members into supporting the gender bill with the same vigor as they did the finance bill. According to some legislators who spoke on the floor of the House, it was not enough for President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga to call for support on TV and in newspaper stories. NTV's political affairs reporter Kennedy Mureithi reports on the debate in Parliament.
Debate on the two-thirds gender bill continued for the second day in the National Assembly, with those for and against it voicing their reasons.
It is a constitutional requirement and it's a constitutional amendment. Mr. Speaker, I support.
We passed it, and now you're saying it is going to be very expensive to have the 22 women in National Assembly or to have the 2 women in Senate. It will cost only 280 million. What will be more expensive is the referendum that you want to remove the women.
Voting on the bill is slated for next week. The bill will require support of 233 MPs, as it is a constitutional bill and amendments to it are not allowed. Women MPs are calling on their male counterparts to turn up in numbers when the vote is called so that they can fulfill the constitutional requirement.
All the party leaders who've gone on TV and said we support this, why haven't you all called PGs? Why haven't you whipped the members? You whip the members when you want anything passed, but when it comes to the women, President Uhuru Kenyatta was the first one to go and sign he for she. Let him actually do what he needs to do to pass this bill. This is becoming a joke.
If we mean we are supporting the amendment, let's be here during the day of voting and let's exercise our democratic rights.
Sisi wanawake ulimwengu mzima tusidi kuendelea tusichoke. Mungu we.
In the debate today, women MPs voiced displeasure with some of their male colleagues who argued that the passage of the bill was a license for political leaders to reward cronies, family members and also bring in their girlfriends to parliament.
We must stop this stigma that for a woman to be nominated, you must lie around, whatever that means. And may I also say we are tired of being categorized into rural, urban women, classic women, slay queens, I don't know what, and nobody does the same classification to the men.
If the men of this house are fewer than women today, they could be doing the same thing we are doing today. They could be talking to us.
National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale argues that Parliament is not at risk of being dissolved if it did not pass the bill, as is widely believed.
Mpaka sasa bunge halijakataa. Na ndio mimi nakwambia tutaleta hiyo hoja.
The issue of additional costs in terms of wages that have to be footed by the Kenyan taxpayer has featured heavily despite the president's argument that cost is not a big issue. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV.
The fight for equal representation by men and women, commonly referred to as the two-thirds gender rule, has been a protracted 8-year battle in Parliament, with today's National Assembly debate informing only the latest chapter. NTV's Silas Apollo walks us through this journey that has also involved the courts. The question being whether the dream, as had been envisioned by the drafters of the Constitution, is achievable.
We are 91 ladies in this parliament, including the county MPs.
The debate on the implementation of the two-third gender rule first became a national issue after the then Attorney General Githu Muigai sought the advisory of the Supreme Court on its implementation just before the 2013 elections. The AG had at that time argued that the matter had proved elusive since the Constitution had failed to expressly provide how it would be achieved. The court then gave August 27, 2015 as the deadline for Parliament to pass the law to implement the gender rule, a deadline that Parliament failed to meet, prompting court actions by various lobby groups which wanted the House declared unconstitutionally constituted.
Just relax.
Court orders issued by High Court judges John Mativo and Mumbi Ngugi separately directed the Attorney General and the then Commission for the Implementation of the Constitution to prepare and table a bill for legislation in Parliament. But Parliament again failed to pass the law twice, a move that female MPs linked to a reluctance by their male counterparts to enforce the constitutional requirement.
I think the sad situation is that this has turned out to look like it was a women bill, a women agenda, but it was an agenda that is clearly enshrined in the Constitution.
It's actually a shame. We did better last time, and we thought that everything was going to be okay. And honestly speaking, I think now any Kenyan can take us to court and say this parliament is unconstitutionally constituted.
We are going to persuade our men. We are going to rethink other parts of the Constitution under which we can come back to Parliament with the same issue.
Male MPs had that the new provision would result in a bloated representation.
May the country know, Mr. Speaker, that men came here today, led by myself, to vote for this bill. And the women have denied us numbers.
Currently, the National Assembly has 75 women, who includes 22 elected and 6 nominated, as well as 47 elected women representatives. Senate, on the other hand, has 3 elected women from the 47 counties, while 18 are nominated. This means that the National Assembly needs some 42 nominated women to achieve the gender requirement, while the Senate needs only 1 senator.
As the debate on the gender bill resumed in Parliament for the 3rd time today, some critics have argued that a change in law may not be enough, and perhaps it was time that political parties were compelled to nominate women for elective positions.
The passage of the current bill, which has been sponsored by the National Assembly Leader of Majority Aden Duale, could see the country pay millions of shillings more in monthly salaries and other allowances to the nominated women MPs depending on how many women are elected. Silas Apollo, NTV.
The National Assembly Security and Administration Committee has summoned Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i to appear next week, accusing Matiang'i of belittling its work. This is after Matiang'i failed to appear before them to answer questions regarding the deplorable state of the country's prisons, besides other security challenges facing the country.
Members of the National Assembly Security Committee were angered by the move by Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i to snub the committee for the second time. The members resolved to summon the CS, accusing him of treating them with contempt.
Our own CS cannot fail to come and address these important issues when he is all over addressing matters of education, transport and other sectors over which there are other CSs. When we call you as a Cabinet Secretary to Parliament, please come. We are not calling you because we are idle. We are calling you because we have serious issues to undertake.
The committee had invited the CS and his principal secretary to answer questions regarding dilapidated conditions at the country's prisons and pending bills.
The prisons are in dilapidated conditions not because of lack of money, but the money meant to improve the prisons are diverted.
It is the issue of pending bills and non-payment to suppliers who are supplying food to our prison.
Legislators say cabinet secretaries who snub invitations to appear before committees leave a lot of unanswered questions. They now want Parliament to take action.
He has never come to the committee to answer questions. Over 60 questions, Mr. Speaker, he has not come to answer even one question.
Mr. Speaker, I think you should allow us so that we impeach one CS as a lesson, so that these CSs will take Parliament seriously. Mr. Speaker, Matiang'i is not a super minister, Mr. Speaker.
The Secretary is finding the committee maybe not sufficient for his appearance. Then the House will obviously have him dragged into this place. But it is not fair that the Cabinet Secretary can keep over 60 questions unanswered.
Matiang'i is required to appear in person before the committee next week. Vincent Odur, NTV.
The next business becomes.
Time for a break, but I'll be back before you know it. Thank you for staying with NTV tonight. Police have launched investigations over the death of a KCPE candidate who reportedly died in his room a day before the results of the exams were made public. An autopsy done earlier in the week revealed that the boy died from a blunt force trauma to his head that led to a brain hemorrhage. NTV's Charity Mwangi with the details.
In his room, evidence of how Juliano Kanyonyo spent his last day is told by the cotton wool on his table that treated the wounds that signified his transition to adulthood. Clothes hanging on the line above his bed and the shoes next to it gave the illusion that Kanyonyo had just stepped out, but the reality is that his life was cut short by people well known to his family.
Alikuwa kuna maoyo alikuwa anatoa na mdomo, damu kwa mpua. Kwenye alikuwa ametairiwa, damu ilikuwa imetoka. Hatujui kama alifanywa unyama.
His family says young men tasked with the responsibility of guiding him through circumcision in accordance with the Agikuyu culture could be responsible for his murder.
Walikuwa wanaambia, yani Juliano, my brother, ati asiongee na mama yake. Juliano akaambiwa akiongea na huyo mama yake hata hiyo nyumba anaweza kataa kuitoka.
Kama mtoto amefika kiwango wa kutairi, wale watoto wanamaliza standard 8 ni 13 years, 12 years to 14 years. Unawapatia mtoto mwingine aende akampeleka akamtairi. Tedi atampatia mawaidha. Mawaidha gani atampatia?
Friends and family visited the home if only to comfort his family and to remember a boy whose future had just started blooming right before their very eyes.
Na nilichukua mtihani na nikastuka kuangalia yule kijana ambaye tumempoteza alikuwa amefanya zaidi kama vile alikuwa afanya mwaka mzima. Alifanikiwa kupata alama 376.
This was Kanyonyo's second attempt at writing the national exams. He emerged third best in his school. Cases of hazing during initiation ceremonies have been spoken of in hushed tones, even ignored over their cultural value. But this being a murder case, the seriousness of the situation is hard to brush off. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Stray dogs are wreaking havoc in Kandara Sub-County, Muranga County after biting a number of residents, sparking fears of a rabies outbreak. Within a period of 4 weeks, 6 people have been bitten by the rogue canines and livestock also attacked. The residents are now living in fear of attack by the vicious dogs. NTV's Muranga correspondent Martin Mwaura with this rather disturbing story.
Last month, Lucy Wamboi, a KCPE candidate at Mutingeri Primary School, succumbed to a rabid dog's bite. A week later, her sister, Mary Mudhoni, who is writing her KCSE exam at Ngodhoro Secondary School in Kandara, was bitten by what is suspected to be another rabid dog on her way home from school. The attack left their parents in grief and great pain, with residents calling for a quick response to contain what appears to be a growing problem.
Matumizi anatumika kwa hii nyumba ama kwa hii nyumba yangu ni mimi naenda kwa kibarua nikiitiwa. Naenda natafuta kibarua na hiyo kibarua ni ya 200, nikikuja na gawanya mara 2 kwa shule na kukula na mambo hiyo ingine. Na kuna wakati inafika tunalala bila kula kwa sababu hayo ndio mimi nafanya kwa sababu mzee wangu hana nguvu yoyote.
She revealed that her late daughter was attacked by a stray dog in Rukera village in Moroka area.
Mchana naomba kwa jia, akaningata hapa mguu. Nikakuja nikamwambia wazazi wangu wenye kumeendelea. Nikapeleka hospitali, nikatimbiwa, nikapewa ndawa. Then tukarudi nyumbani.
Mtoto yangu anaumwa ni ubwa bahari ya Kafati. Maubwa hiyo manasarikia watu wengi sana, na sasa tunaomba serikali isaidie hii ubwa ama ni dugwa sigano.
The residents declared the cost of anti-rabies vaccines from private chemists after Muranga County government facilities ran out of stock.
Wengi wao wanaenda wanachajo, kila mtu akienda sindano 2, hizo zingine zinabaki juu ya kukosa pesa, hata hawezi akaendelea na dawa. So nahimiza serikali yetu tukiomba kwa unyenyekevu watusaidie sana ili wakaaji wawe wamesaidika.
Murang'a County Veterinary Officer Stephen Maina says the county is providing vaccines to manage the situation and prevent the disease from spreading to nearby areas.
Tumeleta chanjo ya umbwa na hiyo kazi ya kuchanja umbwa itaendelea hivi karibuni, ili umbwa ambao wako kwa eneo hili wapate kuzuiwa kutokana na ugonjwa wa kichaa cha umbwa.
Tumeanza kuleta dawa, tumeleta dawa katika dispensary ya Nguthuru na dispensary ya Muruka, na wale wote ambao wangekuwa na shida tunawasihi watembelee dispensary ya Muruka na dispensary ya Nguthuru, madawa ziko.
The residents, children and adults are now walking up with sticks and crude weapons to keep the dogs at bay. Martin Mora, NTV, Murang'a County.
Ahead, the business news after this break.
NTV Business News in association with Saiton.
Time now for the business news. Barclays Bank of Kenya posted a net profit of 5.4 billion shillings in the 9 months ending September 2018, a 2% gain from the same period in 2017. The marginal growth was driven by gains in the bank's non-interest income, which stood at 7.4 billion shillings, 14% higher than it did in the same period a year earlier, even as growth in interest income remained sluggish. The period also saw a 64% surge in the bank's bad loans, which closed at 3.3 billion shillings. Still on matters banking, Isaac Mwige has resigned as Chief Executive of UBA Kenya after 4 years and 3 months at the helm. The bank's board has appointed the current UBA CEO for East and Southern Africa, that is Emeka Iweriebo, as interim CEO for the bank's local subsidiary, pending regulatory approval. In the last 10 months, Kenya has imported about 70% of its sugar from East African Community member states and the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, despite production nearly doubling in this period as compared to last year. Lilian Kiarie with more.
It's been a sweet and sour period for Kenyans, with retail prices of sugar being as unpredictable as the weather patterns have been lately. Constant low cane production, the high cost of producing the commodity, and competition from cheap imports causing this shift. At the beginning of the year, sugar retailed at an average of 107 shillings per kilogram, declining to 101 shillings per kilogram in May, and then rising to 152 shillings per kilogram in August. Then to 146 shillings in September and declining to 124 shillings in October. Total sugar inputs in the last month increased by 5,239 tons from 18,173 tons last year in October to 23,412 tons last month. Production of the commodity in the last 10 months also recorded a 45% increase at 411,567 metric tons compared to 284,036 metric tons attained in the same period last year. In the last 10 months, most of the sugar factories, with the exemption of Muhoroni, Mumias and Nzoia Sugar Company, recorded an improved production, with West Kenya and Transmara recording the highest production respectively. The production was boosted by operationalization of Olepito Sugar Company and inclusion of processed bulk sugar imports at West Kenya and Sukari mills. In the month of October 2018, local sugar price averaged at 4,828 shillings per 50 kilogram bag, whereas imported sugar averaged at 4,642 shillings per 50 kilogram bag. Thus, imported sugar was cheaper than local sugar by 186 shillings per 50 kilogram bag. Packaging costs led to local branded sugar companies charging 20 shillings more than loose sugar at an average of 138 shillings per kilogram. Lilian Carrier, NTV Business.
Players in the legal profession will now be able to view archived data relating to commercial law in an easy-to-access and digest format. This follows a collaboration between the Capital Markets Authority and Kenya Law that aims at providing relevant data about past judgments on commercial matters. The two have launched the inaugural publication with the information titled Digest of Decisions on Capital Markets.
We're also starting to see that specialization in terms of practice areas that advocates, practitioners want to see decisions that relate to their practice area. Capital markets is one of them. We've also seen family, and there's a family division of the High Court.
The recognition of an internal challenge that even within ourselves, as lawyers at the authority, realized not everyone had a full awareness or perspective on the scope and scale of existing precedents that had been passed within relevant capital markets law issues. And we began a journey of saying, okay, how do we start compiling this?
High transport costs and limited access to storage facilities by exporters have emerged as the key issues that need to be addressed to further unlock horticulture's potential. According to the Association of Fresh Produce Exporters, businesses dealing in the export of fresh produce are unable to tap into existing infrastructure owing to high transport costs. Amidst these claims, however, the Kenya Airports Authority has decried underutilization of the 250 metric ton cold storage capacity at the Eldoret International Airport by exporters. Curtains have now fallen on the two-day flour and perishable logistics conference which took place in the capital city, where a host of issues were discussed.
Most cold chain facilities are based in Nairobi. So most of the exporters, especially the SMEs, they work with farmers who are far away from Nairobi, but they don't have the capacity to maintain a good cold chain.
Singishu, Trans Nzoia is known for flowers, even though people have not been encouraged much to do fresh produce growing for those kind of exports. But we know very well that there's passion fruit, there's mangoes, there's peas, which can be exported through that airport. What we need to do is that we need to collaborate with FPIC, we need to collaborate with the SCD, we need to collaborate with KEFIS in order for them to sensitize the farmers to grow for export. Therefore, we are actually underutilizing that airport in as far as we are concerned.
Nakuru County is only left to address the challenge of adequate supply of clean and safe water to its more than 1 million residents to attain all attributes that qualify it for city status. The historic town is on the final bend towards being formally recognized as a city, given its favorable tax regime and conduciveness as an investment destination. Bridget Ngana samples the final preparations that county officials are involved in to upgrade the town to a city.
The transformation from a colonial-era railway construction stopover to a fast-growing urban area best describes the town of Nakuru, which is located at the heart of the Rift Valley. As a city in waiting, the past 4 years have seen the town's road network improve, evident signs of good tidings to come.
Nakuru is an agri-based economy. Most of the produce that we rely on for the factories here actually come from the sub-counties. So we feel once this is able to pick up, that impact will in fact be more so felt in the sub-counties as much as it will be felt within Nakuru town.
Nakuru's hospitality industry and to a large extent her economy is predominantly reliant on MICE, that is meetings, incentives, conference and exhibitions.
We are targeting everyone, and also again even clients who want to book a meeting maybe from Nairobi but they don't want to be in town. There's a lot of noise in town, a lot of traffic, I keep mentioning that, so we want to give those a place that is quiet and away from town.
If you attend a meeting in a city, the kind of allowance that you get there is more than any other allowance you get in any other town. So the moment we become a city as Nakuru, and due to its proximity to other towns and other cities, I know that when you invest here, you will get better returns.
As the fourth largest urban center in Kenya and with a wealth of natural resources, Nakuru is confident that acquiring a city status will attract more investors.
Recently, the Institute of Economic Affairs released the report. They noted 3 key things within the county that made us attractive to investors. They talked of the issue of a favorable tax regime within Nakuru. They talked about the governance system within Nakuru. And the one issue they mentioned, which we are also further working on, is on the issue of water.
The county is putting in place mechanisms to expand its water and sewerage system to the sub-counties, as well as supply a constant flow of water to its environs. By 2019, Nakuru and Eldoret hope to have crossed into the esteemed League of Cities, becoming the 4th and 5th in the country to do so. Bridget Ngana, NTV, Nakuru County.
That's it for business. Thank you for keeping it NTV Tonight. A case involving 5 Chinese nationals who were arrested in Lavington, Nairobi, with items believed to be threats to national security will be heard early next month. The suspects were charged with illegally operating a security firm after the Immigration Department recovered several items, including radio calls, military uniforms, laptops and metal detectors during a raid at their Lavington residence. In May, 3 other Chinese nationals were arrested after they were allegedly found with fake products worth millions of shillings. The 3 were apprehended at the Kenyatta International Convention Center by officials from the Anti-Counterfeit Agency who had been alerted by exhibitors at the Oil and Gas International Trade Exhibition. Over to Brian Otwal with the sports news.
Brian Otwal The loss of kits meant for athletes may soon be a thing of the past following the digitalization of inventory and distribution of the Nike kit by the National Olympic Committee of Kenya. And as Sean Kadavilis reports, embattled Secretary General Francis Kanyili, Francis Kanyili Paul, has stepped down while he contests a corruption case.
The National Olympic Committee of Kenya has digitized the handling of Nike supply kits to prevent future mismanagement, a situation that was experienced by the committee during the 2016 Rio Olympics. NOC President Paul Tergat said that they have reworked the office warehousing, adding that NOC has changed the kit's ordering format. The order will be originating from the federations and then submitted to Nike.
I think we had been engaging government, and they all know that 2020 is a flagship, is the main thing for the country, and I'm hoping that so far, based on what has been happening before, even in terms of even the ministry, asking federations, we need your requirements, we need your budget, so that we can be able maybe to make sure that what do we need, what kind of events that you are going, what kind of operation do you need to go for, which kind of games as individual federations.
Several NOC officials were arrested after the 2016 Rio Olympic saga, with police officers recovering boxes containing kits from the houses of some of the officials. Meanwhile, NOC Secretary General Francis Kanyili Paul has stepped aside to allow for the completion of his corruption case at the High Court, and he's been replaced by Deputy Francis Mutuku.
One of the things which the forensic audit is bringing out is what procedures and policies were not in place before, and we're immediately implementing them. That will safeguard any of us as an individual from doing anything which is not within the rules which are acceptable.
Mutuku revealed that NOC is facing a financial crunch as it owes several entities a debt of over 800 million shillings, including the contractor of the NOC Plaza that is under construction, suppliers and consultants. In the meantime, Tergat said that they will push for the operationalization of the sports fund to help boost Team Kenya's financial operations for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Kenya's road to the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games will be launched in January of next year. Sean Kadavilis, NTV.
Moving on, Kenya's emerging stars will play Sudan in the second round of the 2019 Africa Under-23 qualifiers after Sudan beat Seychelles 2-1 on aggregate in the first round of the qualifiers. Sudan will host the first leg of the tie set to be held between March 18th to 26th. Sudan is coached by Zdravko Logarusic, who is not new to Kenyan football, having coached Giants, Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards in 2012 and 2015 respectively. And FC Leopards and Wazito FC played out a 1-1 draw in a pre-season friendly match at Kamtoyoyo grounds. Stephen Owusu, who was acquired from Nairobi Steamer last month, opened the scoring for Zito at the stroke of halftime before substitute Marvin Nabwire leveled for Ingwe in the final 10 minutes. This was Wazito's second build-up match after going down 1-0 to Gor Mahia on Tuesday at the same venue. Both coaches used the match to test the fitness of their players as preparations near home stretch ahead of next season kick-off in a fortnight. KCB Football Club has completed the signing of 13 new players drawn from the East African region. The bank also signed a 2-year deal with former Wazito FC tactician Frank Ouna to steer the squad in the Kenyan Premier League this coming season. 24-year-old ex-Simbas SC and Singida United player Jamal Mwalumbeko headlined the foreign players that also includes Rwanda's centre-backs Tubane Jemus and Mugabo Gabriel, Burundi striker Hemedi Muruboze and Tanzanian keeper Peter Manyika. The club has also signed local stars Joseph Okoth from Bandari, Thika United's fullback Badi Baraka and midfielder Michael Mutinda. And Kenya's top seeds, that is Albert Njogu and Ryan Randiek, advanced to the third round of the ITF East Africa Junior Circuit 18 under that is under boys category contest after dismissing their respective opponents at the Nairobi club. That seeded Njogu beat Denzel Sisto from Botswana in straight sets of 6-1, 6-1 to set up South African Devin Badenhorst. Randy Ekwit stood strong serves and grounds a stroke from Frenchman Youssef Bokushe, winning in straight sets of 6-2, 6-2 to reach the third round, where he will take on Damien Laporte. And Kenya's Anne Obure bagged a silver medal in the 25 meters freestyle at the Singapore Masters Swimming Championships held in OCBC Aquatic Center, that is in Singapore. Obure, who operates under Ogelea Africa, finished 6 seconds behind Australian Cindy Ong, who beat her to the gold medal. Bettina Schreiber from Britain finished third. The 34-year-old finished fourth in 50 meters breaststroke in a time of 52.7 seconds.
Come on, give them a let's go, girls. Come on.
Also going on right now, Equatorial Guinea is taking on South Africa in the AUCON, that is Africa Women's Cup of Nations, that is going on in Ghana. And earlier, Nigeria won their first match after losing 1-0 to South Africa. They won today 4-0 against Zambia. A lot more in sports later on, that is tomorrow. But for now, have a lovely night. My name is Brian Otwal. Back to you.
Thank you, Otwal. Well, that's all we had for you on this edition of NTV Tonight. Thank you for keeping us company. My name is Olive Burrows, and our sign language interpreter has been David Agondoa. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.